Alright, I just want to show everybody where I've come on the Foundry here and what I'm actually going to be doing this evening. I'll bring the Foundry over first. Finally got the lid all patched up. It kept falling apart and I kept patching it, and it kept falling apart and I kept patching it, but you can see it's no superstar. But last night it went through a complete 2-hour burn and nothing other than these few pieces fell off, which is fine. That's going to happen every time. I got a patch over patch right here right now, so that's holding up, but we'll see if it stays tonight. This whole inner circle was glowing red last night. It was so hot. Don't know if in the picture you can see there's a difference of a white line right here. That's because that matches up with the actual Foundry. I used a piece of carbon felt used for my alcohol stoves in between the lid and the base to keep the two pieces from sticking together, because when it burns super hot, the sodium silicate and the perlite start to melt almost like into a glass, maybe why they call it water glass, and I'm afraid they're going to become one, and then I'll just have a sealed container and won't be able to get it open. So I'm putting a piece of this in between, and it's worked out well so far. I'm also using a piece of this carbon felt as the starter for the whole thing. I just roll up the edge of it into a ball. I soak it in isopropyl alcohol, and I just light it on fire and drop it in there while I'm turning my gas on, and let it sit in there for a while until everything's nice and hot, and I just pull it out. Last night, let's see if you guys can see this part over here. Probably not. Last night I burned for about 2 hours, cooked down about 6 hard drives and some other scrap aluminum that I had laying around the house, and there's a nice nail in my driveway. Made myself a couple cupcakes. I have now 9 cupcakes that I burned last night. So I have those, and my 2 original ignits from my first burn, where I used the metal cans as my risers and overpoured by a lot. So I've got all that metal that's been through one burn and is ready to go into a second burn. I think today, though, instead of doing that, I'm going to start off my night by pouring out a bunch more aluminum that I have and getting some more ignits going. And that way I'll have tons of ignits ready to go when I get ready to make my first official real design, which will be my stove. I might even try and do that tonight if there's time to do both. I was using, as you know, this was my hook, just a bent piece of rebar, and that was my hook that I was using on the crucible with the 2 holes in the side. This was actually a stainless steel cup, and this has only been through one burn, and I think I could do more. I took and ran a rod through the side of it like this, and then I would take my ladle that I was using to scrape the dross off of this, and it was too big of a ladle for this crucible, obviously, and I would just tip it like that, and that worked out well for a small amount of aluminum. It was more than enough to pour the M that we poured the other day, but it wasn't really great for pouring. So I got a different spoon that was not so close up for scraping the dross out, and that's actually worked a lot better. And instead of this, I'm using this hook now, or instead of the kickstand, I'm using this nice big hook that I can grab onto. And I also have a new, what I'm using for a crucible is this now. This is a stainless steel pot. It actually comes from a water filtration device that goes underneath your sink. Pretty heavy stainless steel, actually. I think it'll last a little while. I don't know how long. I've done one burn in it, and it has no effects so far. A little discoloration right in here, but other than that, no effect. So what I'll do is I'll try to turn that every time a little bit, so my burner's not hitting in the exact same spot every time. To the top, I drilled a hole in each side, and I made a bend of rebar that can't come out either way you go. You go too far this way, it's just not far enough to get out there. And if you go too far this way, it's just not far enough to get out there. This can fall down to either side, that side or that side. And when it falls down, there's still plenty of room for me to hook it on either side. So that's a nice, safe container for traveling. Now, I also didn't like my pouring mechanism before, because I had to get my hand underneath it with a spoon. And when I did this one, there was about, well, there were 9 cupcakes of aluminum. And I don't know what that weighed out to be, but it was that high on the crucible. And going to tip it, it kept sliding off my spoon like that, and I was getting a little nervous. Finally, we got it to pour, and it was a little messy. But I wanted it to be a little safer. So today I built a pouring apparatus. So now I will take this out of my Foundry and set it in this loop of the pouring apparatus, unhook it, and grab the pouring apparatus, with gloves on of course, and raise it up. And then I will be able to walk over, and with the T on the end of it, I will then be able to pour. The only issue is, did you see how that fell down there? I'm not sure you saw it. Let me come over here again and show you this again. So I'll be walking over like this, and I will pour. And that's going to be my only problem, is the handle's going to come down and want to get aluminum all over it. So I've got to come up with a plan for that. I don't want to pour towards the side. If I pour towards the side, like this, no, the aluminum handle may not be in there, but it'll cause it to tilt to one side or the other. Won't be as balanced, I don't think. So I don't want that. I like the idea of one of these handles coming down and locking in there a little bit. Then it can't come out. But the only problem is this handle here. If I could twist it like that, that would be good actually. I like that. I might try that. Just kind of twist it underneath that rebar. But again, this is a hot pot, very hot pot. So to go like that is totally different. But we might try that and see if that works. Just twisting it underneath there, like that. Getting both underneath of the rebar, and then we can pour it. And I don't want it dripping out this hole here is what I'm concerned about. So I can't turn it too much or it will drip out that hole. And if I don't tip it too much, the handle then wants to slide down, but maybe not so much when it's under that rebar. So we'll see. That's how we're going to try it today. And I will set this down, and it will spill. Now I'll have to unhook it. I'll have to get my glove out and unhook it. So that's a lot to do with a gloved hand, but that's what I'm going to do. The method I'm using so far has been to just use the sand that I have, which is not very much. It is a green sand with clay and play sand mixed together. I used the cat litter clay, and I ground it down really fine into a dust, and then I took play sand and sifted it really good. Bentonite clay, and that's what I've been using for my green sand. It needs a lot of water right now. It's really dry, so I will definitely need to moisten it up. This is the current crucible. I couldn't get all my aluminum out when I poured, and somebody said you got to get it all out. I guess if you're using a clay one, that's really important, but since we're using a stainless steel, I don't know if it's that important. I'll show you a little bit more where I got this at. This crucible cost me $3.49. Great deal, huh? And that's round. That's 5.5 inches, 5.25 inches from there to there. So it's a big pot, and it's I don't know how deep it is. I'd say it's 6 inches deep. It's a big pot for pouring. I don't think I'll ever pour more than that. It's just some scrap I'm going to melt down. My crucible, I will show you this, is actually melting a little bit. Where the torch is hitting, most likely the torch is rolling, let's see if I can get to rolling around the crucible and hitting right here mostly. And this is really melting. I actually have a little pocket. Where's my little pocket? Oh, it's over here actually. There's a little pocket that kind of melted down. So I don't know if that's a danger or not right now. It seems like it's not. But you can see it's just melting away, and actually pieces of it melted down. And what happened was, when I went to put my crucible out last night, it was stuck to the bottom. So I'm throwing this in here now. This is a weight, 1.25 pound weight, And I'm going to throw a piece of cardboard on top of that so it doesn't stick to the bottom of the crucible. And I actually had to take my flare off of this burner because that crucible is so big it barely fits inside of this whole structure I have here. So I had to take the flare off of here, and it seemed to work just fine without that. So I actually bring it all the way out to the back, giving it more room to circle around. We had a beautiful circle coming all the way around and out the top hole last night, and that was working perfectly. But as I mentioned, this perlite does melt. And since it melts, I'm putting that carbon felt on there to keep the two perlites from melting together as one. And that seemed to work really well.